Hi beautiful people, this channel is all about self-reflection and motivation. So please do me a big favor, if you're new on that channel, subscribe, like this video in the end if you really love it, and be a part in something is going to be amazing. Guys, I'm Lottie, and today the subject is Africa is still colonized. Yes guys, Africa is still colonized. Of course, today I really understand that the post-colonialism and the colonialism is finished since long time for most of the African countries. Africa is democratically independent, but Africa is still colonized. Because Africa doesn't treat and develop her own natural resources. African continent doesn't have that freedom to do whatever she like with her natural resources. Oil, uranium, cobalt, gold, diamond, mango, coconut, banana, and all the natural resources Africa has. Africa doesn't control her ocean, about the fish as well. So guys, just to give you an example to understand what I'm trying to say when I say that African continent is still colonized because African continent doesn't control our own resources. For example, guys, did you know that the African people with the Asian people are the people who mostly eat rice in the world? But Africa imports and buys the rice to the Asian people. And also, guys, did you know that the African people are the people who mostly eat chicken in the world? But Africa again imports all the chicken from another country, from all the foreigner country. That means that the African people in Africa doesn't produce enough. The agriculture in Africa and the farmer doesn't produce enough because they don't have enough support, the support from the bank and the support from the government. The African continent still struggles to develop because of the geopolitical situation. Africa doesn't control its economy. Africa doesn't control its natural resources. Because most of the presidents in Africa are old and also got clearly the Uncle Tom mindset. Most of the presidents in Africa don't serve the African continent. Most of the presidents in Africa don't serve the African people. Most of the presidents in Africa are still shamed by all the ex-colonizers, UK, Europe, and the US. Guys, this is the most biggest problem of the African continent. Today, most of the African people still struggle to buy some food to eat because of the high cost of the products. Due to the importation of the food. Importation from Europe, importation from US, and importation from Asia. And of course, I understand that we know theoretically that the African continent are the continent the most richest in the world by her natural resources, by her mean, and also by an extreme abundance of the land. But unfortunately, the African continent doesn't produce enough. Because again, most of the agriculture, most of the little people doing agriculture and most of the people who are farmers doesn't have any support from the government. Today, for an African farmer, it's really hard work to be a farmer and to be an agricultor in Africa. And I'm going to show you guys the craziness of all the African presidents, the craziness of all the African leadership. For example, guys, did you know that the development budget to import the food in Africa, full of the African continent, it's $35 billion a year. $35 billion a year. What does it mean? It means that the African continent buy food from abroad, buy a food outside to the continent for $35 billion a year. And that estimation going to rise in 2025 by $110 billion a year. Imagine, guys, how crazy and how unbelievable it is. Because most of the African government prefer to spend billion and billion dollars a year than to push, train, and educate the African people to do agriculture and learn how to make their own food. Of course, now, the African people in the African continent, the young generation of African people, understand perfectly the capitalism game and try to reach the gap on trying to do agriculture and on trying to be farmer. But unfortunately, again, there is not many of them. There is not many of them who understand that it's really important for them to produce and make their own food. Most of the young African people, most of the new generation of the African people doesn't want to be farmer. The young generation of African people doesn't want to be farmer because it's not glamorous enough, it's not fashionable enough, and also it's not enough value for them. For the young generation of African people, being farmer is mean being poor. Being farmer for them is mean struggling and work out of the land. They don't see any money, they don't see any values on doing and on being farmer. The young generation of African people doesn't see any money on doing agriculture. They prefer to work in the office, they prefer to work in media, and they prefer to be lawyer or doctor. And most of them also prefer to leave the continent. And now the question is what Africa can do to be free and independent. For my point, to be economically free and truthfully independent, Africa do need to change her leadership. Most of the presidents in Africa of the 54 countries should the African people and train them to get a nationalism mindset. Train them to get a unity around the 54 countries. Train and push the young generation of African people to create a business and to create a values for themselves. On that point, Africa will make her own economy more stronger. On that point, Africa will finally have a true voice. Because Africa control and decide of the own resources. The natural resources, what I'm talking about is the oil, the diamond, the uranium, the coconut, the banana, the orange, and all the fruit. The problem in Africa is the leaderships. And also, most of the African people feel like they're free and truthfully independent. But there is many different types of freedom. The financial freedom and the economical freedom. Of course, they got the physical freedom. But what they don't have is the economical freedom and the financial freedom. The oldest generation of African people fight for us. And they got the established independence. The established independence, that means not really or completely independent and free. Now it's the responsibility of the new generation of African people on the continent and full of around the world from the diaspora to fight for the true economical independence of the African continent. The new generation of African people do need to wake up and stop to dream about America, about Europe. They just die on the both sides, in Europe and America. In America, the hate and the racism kill the African people and the African American people. Some of the young generation of African people from the continent lost completely the hope of their own country. They don't see any future in their own country. They prefer to escape their own country. Unfortunately, for most of them, on trying to escape their own country, most of them die on the way in Europe, on the Mediterranean Sea. Some of them die on the sea, and some of them are stuck in Libya as a slave. And when some of them finally arrive in Europe, in Calais, they just live as homeless on one of the most biggest slums in the world. The new generation of African people do need to fight and believe on them as an African, and believe in them country, and believe in them continent. The new generation of African people do need to understand that their voice is a power. Their voice is a power, is mean when we look at the world history. For example, in America and Europe, everywhere in the world, when the young generation, when the people revolt and get out in the street to manifest pacifically. And even in Africa, in Northern Africa, what's happened when the people revolt and get out on the street to manifest and put down them leaderships, manifest and ask a changement, a bigger changement of all the leadership. Revolt and put down all the leaderships governed by some Uncle Tom. The new generation of African people need to realize their voice, to be completely decolonized. The African people do need to understand that they live in one of the most gorgeous continents in the world. With so many natural resources. Unfortunately, not well explored and not well managed. The African continent and the African people do need to understand that the economy is the power. The African people can see and take from example China. Economy is the power, but do need to be understood and well used. Africa and the African people do need to understand that by the economical independence, Africa will finally have a true freedom and independence. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that subject. Let me know in the comment if you think that the African people and Africa can only be free and independent on producing their own products and stop to import billion and billion dollar of food a year. Let me know that in the comment. And please, guys, don't leave this channel without subscribe. Subscribe, you got nothing to lose. You will challenge so much more your own reflection. Click on the right button. Click on the right button. Active the notification and you will know all the time about my new video. Thank you so much, guys, to watching. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I kiss you a lot. Bye.